Hey guys, and welcome back to the internet. So I just wanted to take a sec to thank all of my fans and subscribers. I really enjoy just reading through all of the comments I get on all my videos, and you guys are all really great and supportive, so thanks for that. So let's get into the first story called, Lady Asks for a Sandwich, Gets Mad That I Charge Her for a Sandwich. So I used to work at a butcher shop when I was 16 years old, a really small mom and pop place that also had a deli and Italian goods. We sold sandwiches for $5. A fresh Italian roll, deli meat, and cheese of your choice, as well as other assortments. The same sandwich at some sort of artisanal bakery would cost around $10. Anyways, a woman came into the shop one day and asked for a sandwich with turkey, cheese, sun-dried tomato, and pickled eggplant. She watches me pull out a fresh loaf from the basket, cut it open, slice the turkey and cheese, grab the sun-dried tomato and eggplant, and assemble the whole thing. As soon as I wrap it up, I hand it to her and she sneers. I say, "That'll be $5. She says, "This isn't what I asked for." I said, "What, did I do something wrong?" She says, "I didn't ask you to put the whole sandwich together. I wanted everything separately." I say, "But you asked for a sandwich. You watched me make it for you." She says, "No, I asked for the ingredients in the sandwich. All those items in the sandwich by themselves cost less than $5. I refuse to pay that much for a sandwich." I say, "Oh, I'm sorry." So I grab a new loaf, slice it open for her, and bag it. Slice a few pieces of turkey and cheese, weighed, and then wrapped them. Put 3 sun-dried tomatoes in a container, and some pickled eggplant in other, and weighed and priced them both. I go back to the register. I say, "Your total for all the items is going to be $4.35. She happily paid for the disassembled sandwich, went to sit inside her car, which was right outside the shop, assembled the sandwich, and then threw out all the paper and containers onto the ground before driving away. I ended up getting in trouble by my boss for slicing less than 150 grams of meat and cheese, and for making a mess outside the shop. It's been over 5 years and I still get angry over it. Well, you might have still made the right choice here. You have to think about this reasonably. You can either get into a fight with this lady and try and explain her the little bits and pieces of all of the rules, or you could just do what she says, get her out of the store, and take the heat from your boss instead. It would have been funnier though if when she complained that she only wanted the ingredients, that the person in this story just pulled all of the ingredients out of the bread and then just handed it to her in a big pile of mess. Alright, next we got, "Want to try and belittle me? I'll make you late for your precious flight." So I work for a contracting company in Pennsylvania. I work as a traffic controller, meaning I'm the guy that sets up the traffic cones and signs at construction sites, as well as holds the sign and stop and slow on either side. As you can guess, because I'm sure some of you do just a little bit, people hate me when I'm at work. I get constant remarks and comments thrown at me simply because I inconvenience people for a few minutes on their commute. But I don't give a crap because I'm making sure the workers, my coworkers, and the drivers are all safe and no one gets hurt or killed. I also don't give a crap about what people say to me as I have pretty thick skin. So one day I'm working a job with 4 other traffic controllers. Usually it's only 2, me and someone else, but we were on a busy intersection so we needed more people. I was at the top of the hill which flowed into a huge S-bend before the intersection. I was there to make sure that people slowed down before the bend to avoid them blowing past or hitting my coworker at the bottom. I was to only stop traffic when I was radioed to. This was only for the few times the work trucks were moving out of the work zone. Things were going smoothly at first. Eventually I got the call to hold traffic, so I flip my sign to stop, and traffic comes to a stop. Perfectly fine. Then I hear it, a few cars down the line. A woman is blaring her horn non-stop and screaming out the window of her Mercedes. This Karen is just wailing that I stopped everyone. She eventually gets out of the car and comes stomping up to me. Now, I can't leave my post, however, I was fully prepared to whack this lady with my sign if needed. She finally reaches me and says this. She says, "What the F are you doing?" "I'm holding the traffic, ma'am." "Let us through, I have to be at the airport." "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we have workers moving down there. You're just gonna have to wait." She says, "This is freaking ridiculous. Just tell them to move. I have to go." I say, "I'm sorry. Listen to me, you heroin addict. Good for nothing slimeball. Get the F out of my way and do your freaking job." She storms back to her car. Again, I have thick skin, so I didn't care about the comment. However, I am not so against some good old malicious compliance. She wants me to do my job? Well, alrighty then. I get the call to let traffic through and begin to do so. I noticed the 2 cars that were behind Karen had turned off to the side roads, so she was the last one in line. Oh, perfect, I think to myself. I radio down to the guy at the bottom of the hill, tell him that I'll be holding traffic for a bit. By law in Pennsylvania, I can hold traffic for 15 minutes, so I decide to use that to get some malicious compliance on Karen. I let the car in front of her go and stop her. She starts to back up again. She says, "What the F are you doing?" I say, "Sorry ma'am, there's an obstruction in the road. You'll need to wait till it's moved." What was the obstruction, you ask? Well, it was my lunchbox that I threw into the middle of the road after stopping her. She went off for 15 minutes on me about how she's gonna miss her flight, and how I'm a dirty convict. I've never been to jail, by the way. 15 minutes goes by, and I move my lunchbox and let her through. Thankfully only one car came by that time, and it turned off to the driveway, so I wasn't inconveniencing an innocent here. She pulls up and yells at me and asks, "What the F were you doing, you poop head?" I reply with a very snarky, "Just doing my job, ma'am." She drives away in a huff. When we finish up, the others ask what I was doing, and I told them what happened. They thought it was the funniest thing they'd heard all week. I don't know if she was late for her flight, but I hope she was. The moral of this story, don't mess with traffic controllers. We can mess up your day more than you think. I would say just don't mess with most people. You know, it's not that difficult to just be pleasant and nice to most people, and then you don't have to gain all these enemies everywhere who are out to get you. Alright, let's get to college student's mother wanted my furniture. So I just finished my master's and I was moving out of the college town I was in to get a PhD at a different university. I had an apartment that's in a quite nice area not far from campus, and is on the school's bus route. The 12-month lease I signed had a clause allowing me to sublet the apartment. I put the listing up with a few pictures, and a boy contacted me about the apartment for summer courses, and asked if he could come check it out. He showed up with his mom, which seemed normal, since I guess his parents would probably be paying his rent. I showed them around the place, and they seemed to like it and want to rent. I pointed around to the boxes of my stuff for the move, and was telling them that I was going to be out of this place, and he could move in. We do some paperwork, and everyone is happy. So day of his move in. So 2 weeks later, I got everything in my U-Haul, and was going to leave the day after he got his keys, when the mom and the son showed up at 10 a.m. as agreed. I was staying at a friend's place that night. I gave him the keys and took them up to the apartment to show them that I had cleaned it, and left some stuff like toilet paper, paper towels, and water bottles in the fridge to make his move easier. The mom flips out as soon as we get in the door, since there was no furniture. She tells me that the pics in the listing had furniture, and she wants it put back. That she's not paying for furniture. I tell her, "No, it's my furniture, I'm taking it with me." And she pulled out her phone to show me the listing, and I show her that it's not labeled as furnished, and tell her again, no. She goes on a crazy rant about me trying to screw them out of the furniture, and not paying for his rent and furniture. The kid looks upset. I'm pretty pissed as well, because she made a lot of leaps, assuming they were going to get all my furniture. And I tell her they can either keep the apartment as is, or find another, but they aren't going to get my furniture. She flies further off the handle because the kid starts summer courses the next week, and there was no other furnished apartments in town for this cheap. I tell her to put him in the dorms then, and that's when she really lost it and threw her phone at me. I told them to give back the keys and get the F out, or I was calling the cops and management. She refused to leave, and so I did both. I sat in the U-Haul for about 30 minutes before the apartment manager showed up, and she screamed at him too, and then he also called the cops. When they arrived, me and my manager talked to the cops and convinced the lady to leave the apartment. The kid walked out looking like he was going to die of embarrassment. The cops got her to chill out a little bit, and the manager explained the terms of the lease to her again, and that they could take it or leave it. She throws another fit, screamed obscenities at me, the manager, the cops, and even the kid. Then, without giving back the keys or coming to any understanding on the lease with us, they leave in her car. I was not sure what to do, and the cops left after giving us a card with their numbers. So me and the manager went back to his office to talk, and he shows me the sublet lease and my lease, which states that he has the authority to cancel the sublet on my behalf, and that there is a clause in both for immediate termination of the lease if the cops are called to the apartment of any tenant. We agreed to cancel their sublet and do the paperwork. He's a pretty decent guy, and he then offers to let me out of my lease as well, just to be done with the whole thing. That evening, I got a call from a number I didn't know, and it was the kid's dad. He apologized to me and told me they're going to take the apartment anyway, and get the kid some Goodwill furniture or something. The entire time I could hear the mom in the background saying stuff I couldn't make out, but it was definitely her. I then told him about the clauses in the lease, and sublet lease, and how we terminated the sublet. After a few moments of the dad talking to the mom, and probably the kid, I hear the mom flip out again, and she starts screaming through the phone at me, and I hung up. I got a few more calls from that number and the kid's number, but I let them ring to voicemail before blocking them. I left town the next day. Haven't heard anything since about it, but I hope that kid found a place and they didn't have to deal with that mom. Man, what on earth can really compel someone to just go that crazy over something like that? Oh well. So, I wasn't able to find that many great stories for today. I ended up cutting a lot in this video, honestly. So we're just going to move on to another pretty big question of the day, which is, what's an injury you sustained and lied about how it actually happened because it was too embarrassing? I was removing facial hair using a remover cream. I ended up leaving it on for too long, which caused burns. I told people I dropped hot noodles on my face. Man, I don't even know how you explain dropping hot noodles on your face. Like, what were you doing? Just like holding it up above your head? So I have a scar that crossed my left eyebrow. It looks badass, and I made it during a fight against a man with a knife. At least that's what I tell everybody, because saying my PS2 fell on my face because I tried to lift it while not paying attention may be too stupid. and they say video games can't hurt you. So I got surgery a few years ago on my knees, as I had dislodged some loose cartilage in a joint and also torn a bit of my meniscus. At the time I was playing a ton of Ultimate Frisbee, so I just told people it was that. It actually happened when I was getting up from a chair. Man, you should have done your warm-ups and stretches before you tried standing up from that chair. So I fully took off my nail while playing football, I said. Was playing a sport, just an intense game of sword fighting on Wii Sport Resorts, and slammed my hand really hard on a table. Yeah, I'm kinda glad that the age of Wii is over. The Wii is probably the #1 across all consoles for number of injuries related to video games. So I was really drunk and fell in the parking lot of my friend's apartment and busted my face wide open at her birthday party. The birthday party just so happened to be the night before a second date with this really cute girl I met on Tinder. Went on the date and told the girl that a dog at work had knocked me over and I fell on my face. I work with dogs, and me being put on my butt by a Great Dane or some other huge pup isn't unusual, and she understood. So while on the date, some guys came up to me and rudely asked what the heck happened to my face. My Tinder date grabbed my hand and made up some story about how I got into a fight defending her honor, and a bar, or some nonsense. I could hardly keep a straight face while she was telling the story, but she told the crap out of it. It wasn't until a few days later I told her the real story of how I got hurt. The Tinder date and I are getting married soon. See, you didn't even have to lie about falling on your face. She sounds like she's pretty cool though. So I got a black eye as a kid. I slipped and fell on my support beam of my basketball rim. My dad made me lie to my other family members and say that I got it defending some kids at school. He was pretty embarrassed at how terrible I was at basketball. And when your dad tells you to lie just to defend your own reputation, then you know it's a little bit bad. So I was getting hot and heavy with my boyfriend at the time. He reached under my shirt and unhooked my bra, and then pulled my shirt and bra up over my head at the same time. As he did this, the underwire in my cheap bra popped out and left a huge scratch right across my forehead. I made up some story about digging through my closet looking for something and getting scratched by a hanger. I mean, you're kinda just covering up a sad story with another sad story. I don't see how that's any better. So I cut my thumb with an axe. The cut was almost to the bone. I never told anyone because I was told not to play with the axe. This was when I was 6 years old. I guess somebody should have said, "Careful with that axe, Eugene." So I once punched a bowling ball because I was frustrated. It turns out bowling balls are pretty hard. I broke my hand. It was swollen and bloody. I told my boss at work I slammed my hand in a door. It's still broken. This was like 6 months ago. Man, you must have had to punch that thing really hard to break it that bad. So I once fell out of bed and cracked my head open on a metal frame. There was blood everywhere. ER visit, stitches. I was about 6 years old and I still have the scar decades later. My mother literally changed our beds, even though we really couldn't afford it, to safer ones. The truth is, I didn't want to go to bed, so I flung myself out of bed to pretend to be hurt, and maybe get to stay up for a short while longer. Well, I think you pretended a little too hard if you ended up in the ER. So I have a 1.5-inch stab wound scar on my left bicep. When I was younger, and attractive girls asked me how it happened, I would tell them that it happened during a fight where someone pulled a knife on me. Actually, I worked in a butcher shop of a market when I was in my late teens. Part of my job was to collect all the carving knives from around the prep area, put into a large plastic bin, and carry them behind the deli case to the kitchen to wash. One time, coming back out of the kitchen, I failed to notice that somebody had opened a trap door to the basement, in my direct path. While I was in the kitchen, I took one fateful step and tumbled into the basement, with the contents of the bin raining down around me. Somehow I escaped with only a twisted ankle, and the aforementioned stab wound in my arm, for which I had to go to the ER for stitches. I'll always remember being dazed, sitting at the bottom of the stairs, looking up and seeing a meat cleaver embedded into one of the steps. We all make mistakes, but you don't need to make up stories just to try and cover that up. Well, that's all of the responses that I pulled from this one. This video probably ended up a little shorter than usual because I cut so many stories out of it. So I'm just going to end this video with a clip of my cat, Faye. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.